for our inaugural. There we go. Thank you for whoever touched that. For our inaugural year of the Utah Pollinator Habitat Program, we are learning a lot and hoping that you all who have been awarded these kits will hopefully be our first year ambassadors, not to put any pressure on you whatsoever, but it's great to see the interest, and you'll see more as to how much interest we did have. So hopefully you will enjoy this native plant pollinator journey with us. These are the partners that are working on this program. The Utah Department of Agriculture and Food is where the program is hosted. The Division of Wildlife Resources has been involved, Utah State University, of course, USDA, NRCS, and Southern Utah University are our partners in this program. These are sort of the core folks that have been making this happen. My name is Mindy Wheeler. I'm with USU. I am sort of all things rare plants and native plants, but I do work closely with the Division of Wildlife Resources and also UDAF now, of course. Amanda Barth is my colleague also at USU. She is the rare insect coordinator, and she also works very closely with Division of Wildlife Resources and now UDAF as well. Jim Bocut is the Conservation Division Director, I think I said that right, of UDAF and the head of this program. Cherie Edgington is also at UDAF, and she keeps us in line with the grant money, etc. Jim Spencer is our person from the NRCS out in Roosevelt, great native plant resource. Jackie Grant is down at Southern Utah University, and she gets quite some of the money from this legislative bill to do some research down at Southern Utah University. It's really quite helpful what she's doing. Tracy Balch is UDAF down in Richfield. Becky Yeager and Jennifer Dowd are two irreplaceable contractors we have working on this project. They have a lot of experience with pollinator habitats, particularly with monarch butterflies. And Pam Blackmore is our new USU addition, who has been wonderful in terms of trying to keep all the emails straight and kind of trying to keep track of everything. So, and of course, there's a whole bunch of students and everything else involved in this as well. So this is quickly what we're going to cover. It kind of looks like a lot, but fear not. I'm going to try to get through this because I have a feeling most of you hopped on to get some questions answered, and I would rather get to the Q&A down at the bottom here than have me ramble on. So I will keep going, and I'm just going to keep going, and then we're going to unmute everybody to answer those questions at the end. Just a little bit about the background. In 2021, the Utah State Legislature passed House Bill 224, and it was a pollinator bill. I think they call it pollinator amendments now, and it was introduced by Representative Ashley Matthews. Half the money is going to Southern Utah University to research native Utah plants that support pollinator communities. It's a very important part of what we're trying to do. She's got a bunch of students down there working on that, as well as herself. And then the other half is coming to the Department of Agriculture to create this 3-year pilot pollinator program. And the things that were in the bill were the public education and outreach to distribute native pollinator friendly plants and seeds. And then they also wanted to show a 25% cost from the state and 75% from the awardees, that's you guys. And that's why some of those numerous questions as to what you spend on irrigation supplies, how many hours you spent on this project, and that's part of this part of the bill. So essentially, we sort of got together and tried to figure out what we wanted to do, and all of you on this webinar, I'm sure, know that pollinators are in decline, and so we wanted to help a statewide effort to improve pollinator outlook and boost their populations. And we wanted to establish and enhance quality habitat. And these are our goals, to get 90,000 native plants in the ground and 18 million native seeds in the ground as well. And that, it sounds like a lot. Native plants range from 60,000 seeds per pound up to 11 million seeds per pound. So just to give you an idea of the variation there and how quickly you can get to 18 million. We do have wetland and upland kits, you know that. And we hope to expand to more of southern Utah and desert habitats with appropriate plant species. And again, that going back to Jackie Grant, who's doing some of that research on what wildflower species are really the workhorses for the pollinators in the state of Utah. And so we have these ready to plant habitat kits that you again all know about. And the goal after 3 years, well, essentially is to make this not a pilot program anymore, but make this an ongoing thing. And that's why we are trying our darndest to make this successful out of the gate. So, and again, just wanted to say congratulations, mainly because we have about 24,000 native plants that are growing out in the greenhouse. They're much bigger than this now. We had requests for 3,500 of these plant kits. So we could award about 497. So demand far outstripped supply in this first year. So, and again, next year, we have learned so many lessons on all of this that we would really like to put those lessons into practice. And we used 3 nurseries this year. The Department of Corrections, they grow some wonderful stuff. They are great growers out there. The Teaching Greenhouse at USU and High Mountain Nursery. And would like to, of course, involve more nurseries going forward throughout the state. So one of the main things that I would like to drive home is, and again, I'm probably speaking to the choir here, but landscaping with native plants is a whole different animal in my book. It's not a, put them in and walk away. It's not going to be a maintenance-free journey. Weeds are just a fact of life, really. But I just urge you all to take some patience, take a step back, and just watch it carefully and sort of resist that temptation to intervene a little too much, especially if you're new to native plants. Get to know them before you start picking them and before you start moving things around. And so it takes a while for native plants sometimes to truly express themselves. So reaching that equilibrium, for lack of better words, can take years. And just know too that not every plant that you put in that we give you is not necessarily going to thrive. Every site is different. So just try to roll with it as much as you can, and sit back and enjoy the new pollinators that will come visit your site. And the other thing too, we really would like to get these in the ground as soon as you get them. They have been ready to go in the ground for a while now, and just get them established right before the winter sets in. And so when they should reappear. They're all perennials. They reappear in the spring. And again, be patient with that. Sometimes it takes a little while for them to fully express themselves and come back up. And what will a successful project look like? And sometimes, of course, success is in the eye of the beholder, but hopefully you'll have 3 to 5 plant species that are blooming at once throughout the growing seasons, so spring, summer, and fall. And then you'll see an increased diversity of pollinators, because biodiversity sort of begets biodiversity. So it's a wonder how that works. And so you should see a whole bunch of new pollinators, as well as some other animals, birds, perhaps hummingbirds and other birds that prey on pollinators, which is all part of the wonderful circle we're in. So again, patience, and resist that temptation to intervene a little too much, which I frankly have to remind myself of that on a regular basis. So a little bit about site preparation and maintenance. Again, I think most of you know most of this. We do urge you to avoid use of the pre-emergents and pesticides. And if you do supplement some plants from big box stores, just be aware that some of the big box stores still use neonicotinoids in their nursery stock, which is really a systemic pesticide for pollinators, and it really makes them quite ill and reduces their health quite a bit. So if you do that, ask your nursery manager if they use neonicotinoids, and they hopefully will be truthful with you. Another key thing is we urge not to use weed barrier, because so many of our native bees are ground nesting, so they need access to that bare ground. Mulch, you can certainly put down mulch, because bees certainly can make it through there, just not too terribly thick. And leaf litter is really a wonderful thing for bees to make their nests in as well, or having that protection from the leaf litter. And yeah, we'll get to that in a minute as well. And irrigation, again, probably speaking to the choir, but you guys know what a wilting plant looks like. But the thing about these plants is that they have been in a hot greenhouse for a while now, and they are getting watered every day. So we just need to sort of gradually taper them back off of that. And once these get established, which may take, maybe in the first year, maybe 2 or 3 years, then you shouldn't have to water any of these plants anymore. Supplemental water certainly will help some, but keep in mind that supplemental water can be not such a good thing for some species. The other thing, hopefully you guys have been visiting the website here. I'm a little hesitant to do this just because I had some issues. But in there, you will see a list of what you will be receiving in your habitat kits. There's a planting guide and a maintenance guide that you should really read through. It's got some wonderful tips in there. Some information on each of the plant species, weed management, watering frequencies, etc. We can maybe go to the website if we want to after this. I just want to get to questions. These are the species, again, that are up on the website, the wetland species and the upland species here. And again, these are on the website, and we can visit that in a minute. So these are the native plant information sheets that are up on the website. And you can click on each one of these, and it shows you what it looks like, the mature height, the mature spread, its water needs, what it might feed, as well as its native distribution in the Western United States. And it's got some landscaping info and planting tips as well. These are the maintenance guide and the planting guide. And again, I do urge you to read those thoroughly. They really do. It does have some wonderful information in there for your habitat kits coming. And then design layout. We can, again, talk about this more. We have some other slides that we can show. And again, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Just know, I think it's best to know how each plant spreads. Does it spread by rhizomes? Does it spread by seed only? Does it tend to spread pretty easily? Then you can sort of think about it and try to plan ahead. Or again, of course, take the other side and just see what happens. And Google is your friend. Jen put this up there, and there are some great ideas there as well. Weed management, again, it's going to be weeds are a fact of life. Again, leaving the leaf litter for nesting bees is wonderful. But I would also urge for those of you who are new with native plants to, if you don't know what they are, leave it, wait until the plants truly express themselves so you know what is what before you start thinning out something that you didn't mean to thin out. And then one thing that we'd like to mention too is that some of these hollow stem species are, if you trim them back, they are wonderful places for bees to nest as well, as are bee hotels and other possibilities. Watering frequencies, again, refer to the planting guides and maintenance. I just wanted to point out that you can overwater the penstemons, mostly the penstemons, that they can get root rot, or they don't like it. So the more neglect you give the penstemons, the better once they get established. And again, you can water every other day for the first 1 to 2 weeks, and then, you know, spread out further and further over the next month and until the snow flies or until the frost comes. So additional resources, and I apologize for all this text here, but this is up on the website as well as a Word doc, and some of these are just wonderful reading and photos of all the different bumblebees and other pollinators. So the other thing I wanted to mention is that, please, if you have not done so already, we really do need you to answer that survey 1, 2, 3, because that will tell us where you want to pick up your plants. So it's either Ogden or Logan or Draper. If you don't finish that survey 1, 2, 3, we're not going to know where to have your plants, and that one day, or those 3 spots, are your chance to pick up the plants. And this will go out in another email, but Friday we are going to be set up in Logan for those up north, or if you want to come up north and pick them up from 3 to 8 at the teaching greenhouse. Saturday we will be both at the Division of Wildlife office in Ogden in the parking lot there, and we'll also be at the Lone Peak Conservation Center down in Draper by the old prison there. So hopefully that will urge you to go onto the website and answer those questions, because we do obviously need that information, as well as your cost share part of this project as well. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing for the time being and see, can we unmute everybody? And, or if there's some things in the chat that we can answer. Let's see.
Yeah, so Mindy, we have a question about whether or not they receive a confirmation email after completing the survey.
We can make that happen, Pam. I don't think we have that set up right now. Is that correct, Pam?
That's correct. But yeah, we can send one out for everyone that's already taken the survey if they'd like that. And then they can see their answers too, and see how close they end up to their projected costs and those kinds of things.
Okay.
There was another question on the comment section as well, Mindy.
Uh-huh.
From Zachary Earl. It says, I had to clear out some stinking sumac trees before planting. Was planning to use brush killer. Would that cause issues when planting a week later?
Do you know the name of the herbicide that you want to use?
I can check again. This one is just called like brush killer, but I was planning on like painting like the stalks of like individual trees, so not like a broad application, just like individual ones. I don't know.
And yeah, that I think that would be okay. Some of those herbicides do have some residence time in the soil, so if you avoid getting it onto the soil, then you should be okay. Just be careful to keep it off the soil, and
super careful application.
Yeah, to keep the soil as clean as possible, I think is the goal there. So
Yeah, we recommended if there is more broad applications that need to happen, that you avoid doing that this fall and waiting until next year when things have had a chance to establish, and you can be a little more targeted in which plants you selectively apply those to.
I see a question, will 3 kits fit in the back of a pickup truck? Yes, it should. And well, sometimes it depends, I guess, depends how far you're driving. Sometimes I like to put some sort of cover over it just so they don't get so windblown, but that also could be pretty darn hot under that cover. So that might be something just to be aware about, or if you can put them as close to the cab of the truck so they don't get so much wind. Yes, the slides, we will post this up on our website again. So yes, we can put that up on the website and make sure you can get to it. Is there a feeling out there as to whether we want to go to the website? Because we could poke around in it if that would be helpful. I don't know if some of you have been there already and are familiar with it, or if you would like to see a little test drive of the website. And
Is this the Utah Pollinator Habitat website? Is that the one you're talking about?
yes.
Okay.
And if I'm just gonna
Just wanted to come in and say you all are doing awesome. This is quite the task to tackle. So
yeah, I appreciate that. It has been. It's yeah, we've been learning a lot of lessons, and would like to carry those lessons forward, certainly. So I'm gonna.
One of the benefits to the website is being able to pull up the individual plant species PDFs so that you can kind of see when things bloom, which might help you, and how tall they get and all that sort of information, so that you might be able to sort of lay out your plants once you get them and decide where you want things to go.
Am I showing the right screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So here's the pollinator habitat kit composition, and you can look here and you can see here's the upland kit, the colors, and when they, well, not necessarily the colors, but when they bloom, essentially. And then if you click here to read more, this will take you to, let's go to Palmer's Penstemon. There it is. This beautiful, very large, wonderfully smelling penstemon that gets to be pretty darn tall, can actually get to 5 feet if it's really happy. Produces a lot of seeds too, and you can see how wide the spread gets too. So, and then down here, sort of the water needs, the sun, the irrigation, and max one time. And again, I think for the penstemons, you really don't need to water those at all once they get established. And these are the wetland kits. Is there anything else? Let's see. That we, oh, there's down here, sorry if I'm making people seasick. There's down on the main page is the planting guide and the maintenance guide as well. And this is the reading list that will come up as a Word doc for you. So there's a lot of good information up here that you can poke through.
So we've got quite a few questions rolling through in the chat screen. Can you see those, Mindy?
Okay, I'll work from the bottom up, I guess. Go over the annual reporting requirements. So Melissa, if you have submitted your survey, you'll see that we asked for a couple of before photos, right? And so pretty much a large part of that annual report, it will be after photos and a few questions. It's going to be a page, maybe max. And pretty much what you guys want to tell us. What did you learn? You know, what helped, what didn't help, anything you guys want to tell us. We also did start an Instagram page. I think it's a hashtag, and I'm not a social media person, so if I'm not saying this correctly, a hashtag UT Pollinator Habitat Program. Is that right, Jen?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So if you guys want to get on that, you can share stories, share ideas, or whatever. That's also an option. But again, that annual reporting is a lot of it's going to be after photos, and we just want to see how it's coming along.
And it should be a fill out. It's you're hoping to have it as a file that you guys, similar to what you did now, you just go on, you fill out the questions, and then you're done. So it should be a format that everybody gets that's the same, that you just fill out individually.
Thank you, Zach.
Is that right, Mindy? Is that what we're?
Yes,
trying to
we're
do?
yep. We do want to do it through the survey 123. It really keeps things much more organized on our end. Are the kits evenly divided on the number of each plant included? Not necessarily. I want to say Deja. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but part of our lessons that we learned this year is that some plants are much easier to grow than others. And so we're a little short on some and a little long on others. So you will get most of the species in that upland kit or wetland kit, whatever you were awarded. You just may not get equal numbers of each species. Does that help? Okay, thanks. And yeah, it's again, some of these lessons that we're learning, it's fun, question mark, and it's also a little frustrating. So there's the annual, let's see, we're getting the same number each plant in the kits, I think. Let's see.
There's a question about, is cardboard considered a weed barrier, and would it prevent bee habitat?
And that, I think it would be a barrier. I don't think it would, of course, be nearly as much of a barrier as weed cloth, because it does break down over time. So, you know, if you're having trouble with weeds, what I might recommend is, if you want to use some cardboard somewhere, I'd say go ahead, just don't blanket the entire site with it, so that bees can still have access to your earth somewhere in your site.
Yeah, and ours is usually covered, like cardboard's usually covered with mulch, so I think that's still fine. Okay.
Yep, I think that's let's see.
There's another one. Can you include all the leaves links in the follow-up email? Patrick, do you want to clarify that one a little bit, or?
Yeah, there was just a bunch of links on those slides. Can you include those in the follow-up email?
Yeah, so we're going to actually link this entire meeting and the presentation to the website. Is that right, Mindy? So they should be able to access all those links once that's up, and we should be able to do that, I think, tonight. So does that answer your question? Is that helpful? There's another question from Karen. Is there a contact person at the USU teaching greenhouse that I could contact with a site-specific question later on?
Sure. I think what kind of question, Karen, are you, if it's about the soil or the plant? Because I think I would probably be better able to answer the plant question. So, yeah.
I'll get back with you. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. There's the, okay, a test drive, hopefully that. Okay, and then let's see, video and then there was 2 new messages. I was considering solarizing my meadow area, which is currently overrun with weeds. I would cover the area with clear plastic, let it heat up, and will this work? Should I add any soil amendments, compost when planting? Yes, it should work if you are able to leave that clear plastic for a good month and a half to 2 months in the heat of the summer. That does do a good job of killing most of what's underneath that plastic. Whether you need to add anything to the soil after that, in my opinion, I think it really depends on your soil to begin with. Most of these native plants are pretty much adapted to really, frankly, quite poor soil conditions. They don't need a whole lot of nitrogen or anything else. Soil texture certainly could have an effect on how well your plants do. Again, most native plants and these native plants that we have for you do better in somewhat coarser soil. They'll do fine in loam as well. But they, you know, again, I'm just thinking of the penstemons, the poorer the soil, that it seems the better they do. Hopefully that answers your question. Sometimes if you have a whole lot of clay in your soil, which I do, I just kind of work around it, but you can add some amendments to sort of break up the clay a little bit. What would be considered too thick for a layer of mulch? That's a very good question. I think you might get different answers from different people. I would say certainly 4 inches would probably be too thick. You know, 1 inch would be fine. 2 to 3 inches. I don't know. How about Jen or Becky? Do you guys have a feel on what might be too thick?
My feeling is you could go thicker in some areas and then definitely lighter in others. I mean, you want to give kind of a diversity of habitat for a diversity of pollinators. And so you in some areas want to leave some bare ground for those burrowing insects. But, you know, once you get 2 or 3 inches, yeah, it's great for weed suppression, but not so great for our native bees that are nesting or overwintering.
I think it's also good to just point out that you want to make sure if you are using a good thick layer of mulch that you're not going right up against the base of the plant, because that can actually cause rot to the plant and can cause establishment to fail. So I've also found that a lot of our native bees like to hunker down in some of the bunch grasses, right at the base of the bunch grasses. And that's a really nice place to kind of leave exposed for them. They seem to utilize that pretty effectively. And then, you know, as long as you're leaving some edge effects so that, you know, they have access to bare soil on some spots, maybe where, you know, you'd prefer them to nest in anyways. As long as you're, like Becky said, providing a diversity of structure and habitat, I think it's going to be a win.
Yep, I think that diversity of habitat is a really important one that try to make a buffet of sorts for the bees, so they can choose where they want to go or need to go. I'm seeing something from Rhea. I think that's how to pronounce your name. Logistics. Welcome to the club. We have been dealing with logistics and moving these thousands of plants as well. But some plants are tall, some plants are not. You can stack, certainly. I can't remember. I think you have both kinds of kits, Rhea, if I'm not mistaken. You could certainly stack things on top of the grasses. Some of the other plants you might be able to stack, but I would hesitate on that. But there are some plants that are in what, maybe 8 or 10 inch tubes that really are not going to stack. So it's going to be kind of a mishmash. And my thought would be bring what you can in terms of maybe you could, bring stuff to construct stuff like tiers or layers in the back of your truck. And we can play with it when you pick up your plants. And that's probably not terribly helpful, but it's a tough one. Moving lots of plants is not as easy as I would have thought, as I again learned. So does that answer your question to some degree anyway?
Yes, yeah, thank you. I was thinking of maybe bringing some building supplies along. So the mishmash is fine, and we'll expect that. So thank you.
Okay.
Cinder blocks and 2x4s might also help for stacking.
Yeah.
Beds and stuff.
Yeah, something like that. We'll get creative.
Mindy, we missed a question up top that said, hi, how will the water restrictions affect the watering schedules for our kits? And how do we manage any issues that may arise from the city?
Hopefully in that regard, again, if you're on, well, I'm hoping that, I don't know actually where the watering restrictions are with the city right now. And so I would hope that maybe if there are restrictions, I would hope that maybe you could take a hose or something if you can't turn on your sprinklers, if that's how you were thinking of doing, and just getting out there with something to hand water them, which will work just fine as well. And I'm hoping too that we're getting these to you on September 17th, and I'm hoping that we'll have maybe a month of on and off watering before the fall really sets in. And then hopefully we'll have some, let's hope we'll have some soil moisture in the spring, and that hopefully some of these, most of these will be pretty well established, and you can really back off on that watering. Some of those, again, if the upland plants are good and established, they should not need any extra water. But once a week should do the trick. Hopefully that answers the question. It's every site is different. Some soils will hold water a little bit longer. Some soils, the water just goes straight through. So you're really going to have to sort of keep a close eye on it. So maybe not the question or answer you wanted, but hopefully, and that's one of the main hopes for this program too, is that it will sort of wean people off their large lawns. Maybe we can get those lawns to more of a manageable size and get some biodiversity in their landscapes, and save some water for the Great Salt Lake.
Okay, Mindy, we had a question about if we requested 4 kits for our area, how do we know if we'll get 4 kits?
You should, so in your email, your congratulatory email, you should have on the top there the number of kits that you requested that you will receive. And so what you requested is what you should get. So yeah, we were pretty careful with how many kits we awarded, because we wanted to make sure that we would have the plants to do so. So you should get 4 kits if you requested 4 kits. And I don't know if they're all upland or if they're some are wetland as well. The wetland species are truly for wetlands, pretty much of pretty much saturated soils or moist soils throughout the season. We really wanted to make those available because that's where the monarch butterflies tend to hang out, is in those more moist areas, and we wanted to give them more food, particularly in the fall, to make their migration back to where they need to go.
So there was actually a specific question about that. What is the difference between upland and wetland sites, and any tips for selecting appropriate wetland and upland sites?
So upland sites, in my mind, almost anything is on the table in terms of maybe not a swale in your yard or something where it might gather some more water. I wouldn't put the upland kits there. But almost anywhere else where maybe it'll get a tiny bit of water or no water, I think that that will work for the upland kits. The wetland kits are much more specific. And again, if you think of like lake shores or riparian areas or areas that are going to be pretty darn wet throughout the season, that's the plants that we chose to grow out all came from those pretty wet areas, wetlands that are, I don't know, not necessarily, well, wetlands by the Utah Lake, where it's, again, pretty darn wet for the entire season. Some of those wetland plants will do okay with a little less water, and I can talk about that, whoever might be interested. But there are plants in that wetland kit that really do need, access to water and moist soils pretty much the whole season. Hopefully, again, that answers the question. And do feel free to email me at any time. And Mindy Wheeler, Utah is usually a better email for me. I keep forgetting about my other email. But please do feel free to contact me anytime, and I can try to answer questions better. If you have specific questions about your site or whatever, I can try to do my best on that as well. Yeah,
we have another question up above that we didn't hit, but it says there's bindweed in my meadow. Can I spray copper fungicide on it right now? It's covered in powdery mildew.
Boy, there was some feedback there. Can you say that one more time?
Sorry, the question says there's bindweed in my meadow. Can I spray copper fungicide on it right now? It's covered in powdery mildew. I think the question is, can he spray chemical on the bindweed right now, or the copper fungicide on the bindweed right now, and have it basically be gone by the time he plants the pollinators? Or would you recommend that he don't plant anything on that?
Or should I just mow it all down, the bindweed?
Boy, it's a bindweed is oh my goodness, it's a tough one. That plant has 13 times the biomass underground than it does above ground. So you're going to be dealing with it for quite some time to come.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. So for this season, I would probably mow it down. I don't really know anything about copper herbicide. Does anybody, Becky or Jen, know much about the copper herbicide?
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't either. Yeah, I think our main suggestion for bindweed is to pull what you can now. And then once we're a little further into the spring, when everything starts storing its energy into the roots, go ahead and spray it selectively if you can. But it's kind of one of those, bindweed's impossible unless you're just consistently on it for multiple years. So it's a tough one.
And if there's a spot that you can, I don't know, reserve, I don't know what the right word is there, but to try solarizing it. Put that clear plastic over it for a good 2 months in the heat of the summer, if you have the space for that. But that's one way to at least maybe get a lead on the bindweed issue. The other thing that we're trying is that there is a biocontrol for bindweed, which is I think you can buy it, and maybe I shouldn't speak too much about that, but I know I got some from my county weed supervisor, but just know that it's very slow. So if you have the time and patience to put the bindweed mites on your bindweed, that could also be an option for maybe.
Oh, the mites.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if you can ask your county weed supervisor or the Utah Weed Supervisors Association, somebody might be able to provide you with some bindweed mites that, and again, biocontrols, they're tested for a long time, but in any case, they take a long time to really get a foothold on any infestation. So
Yeah. Okay, thanks. That's really helpful.
okay, yeah, the bindweed, we are dealing with bindweed at one of our sites, and it's just like, I could have sworn I, pulled all of this last week, and it doesn't look like we touched anything. So it's an amazing plan. If only we could like harness its, its energy somehow in a.
I know. I tried throwing it on fencing, and then it gets its powdery mildew, and I'm like, this is useless. So I mean, not that I planted it. I was just trying to like make it do work or something.
Right. Well, I admire your creativity. I'm not. Let's see, on the pickup, how many flats per kit? So each kit is 30 plants. And we have found, we were trying to build one the other day, we found that we could fit 30 plants in, generally 30 plants in 2 trays of, what were they, 18 inches by 12 inches? Does that sound right, Becky?
That sounds right. Yep.
So we could fit
25 to 30 plants.
Yeah.
In a tray.
25 to 30 plants in 2 of those trays of 18 inches by 12 inches-ish. So, and again, it kind of depends on, okay, we had different size pots and all sorts of stuff. So that's not necessarily a rule of thumb, but it'll be close.
They're 4-inch pots on average.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So yeah, somebody answered.
We had one question that I think we missed, Mindy. It says, are we allowed to add other plants to these plants, such as seeding blue flax with the pollinator plants?
Absolutely. I'm not gonna make any grand rules about that, especially, I mean, I urge native plants for our native pollinators, if you can get them. So yeah, absolutely. And hopefully, again, with time, we can offer, if you wanted to put in for more plants next year, you can certainly do that. And hopefully we'll have a few different species. And anyway, we'll be thinking of all sorts of ways to help you out, hopefully. So are there any other questions that we've missed? I just
wanted to make sure we covered, because there was a lot of questions about the average size and flats and all that. Most of the pots are 4-inch pots, is that right, Mindy, with some also deep root trainers?
Yes. Most are 4-inch pots, 4-inch deep, 4-inch wide, but we do have some larger root trainers and some other size pots too. We were using what we could get our hands on. So
there's a question on alkaline soils and whether or not these plants are okay in alkaline soils.
And my answer to that is probably going to be unsatisfactory as well, but alkaline soils, and sometimes it depends, right? How alkaline are they? What kind of pH are we talking about? I mean, if it's a pH of 8, I think you're just fine. If you're getting up into the pH of 9, then you might see some issues with it. But I think for the most part, they should be okay. And again, when I think of alkaline soils, I think of the soils that are around the Great Salt Lake, which are definitely problematic for a lot of for some of these species. But I think if you're in an urban area, you should be okay. Whoever asked that question, do you know the pH of your soil?
Yeah, I think it was right around an 8 or so, like you're talking about. I don't think we were too close to 9. We did just have, though, a Japanese maple tree that was in our backyard that didn't make it, and I assume it was because of the alkalinity of our soil. But we're over towards Sugar House in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, I think you should be fine. Well, my experience with Japanese maples, that they're a little tender, but that's just me, and I don't have the anyway, I'm not sure if it was me or the Japanese maple, but anyway, if you're in Sugar House,
Sure.
I would think that you're probably okay.
Okay.
The grass is the grass is in the upland kits are definitely will be okay, and the forbs or the wildflowers should be as well.
Mindy, we had a question of, will you want us to save pots in good shape for the program for future use?
And I appreciate that question, and I would love it. There's going to be a lot of pots that are not going to be in the greatest of shape, but those that are, it would be greatly appreciated. And we'll have to figure that out and keep a conversation going and how we're going to get those pots back from you guys, but it would be appreciated.
I had a question about maintenance. So I'm adding mine to an established wildflower meadow, and how I currently take care of that meadow is I mow it down in the fall and leave all of the matter there, and then overseed in the springtime. So this year I'm planning on mowing it before I plant all these plants, because I know they're going to be really young and not established yet. But my question is, will that practice still be possible in the future, or do I need to change how I maintain it, or should I just read the maintenance article?
I think for the most part you should be okay. I mean, I'm trying to think of any of the species that might not be okay for mowing, but I would think that most of them would do okay with it. I would hope that maybe you could mow maybe 8 to 12 inches instead of taking it. I don't know how low you take it, but
I usually just do the highest setting on a traditional mower, but I guess if I like weed whacked it, I could do it higher.
Yeah, and I don't know, I would say sort of play with it maybe and just
Cool.
see what happens, because I think we definitely some of the showy milkweed that we have for you guys, the monarchs love the mowed showy milkweed, or the new shoots that come up. They really head towards those to put their eggs on in the middle of the summer. So showy milkweed is a great one to mow. And what's the best time, Becky? In
Like early July.
Early July?
Yeah, I think the cutoff is July 15th for the suggested mowing time for monarchs, because that's when they really start hammering it again, and they really like those new shoots. There's a whole section on the maintenance guide about strategic mowing and how it can be beneficial to your meadow areas. So definitely check that out. Make sure you comment if you have any updated information on it.
Any other questions, thoughts, suggestions?
There's one last question about, are we receiving seeds as well as plants? I'm unclear of how the seeds factor into this program.
So there are some folks that are receiving seed as well as plants, and we think we might have some extra seed packets, if I'm not mistaken, and we should likely have some seed packets at the pickup spot. So what generally happened is those who were not awarded live plants were awarded seed packets. So, but yeah, that was, we can definitely, we should have some extra seed packets at the plant pickup days too. So that can be part of the pickup. Anything else? I really appreciate you guys hanging in there, and really, I'm not gonna call you guys, but I mean, you guys were sort of the cream of the crop, and we decided that you guys are the ones that deserve these kits. So we're hoping that we can get some good reports next year.
We have another question that says, this may be off topic, but how is pollinator population going to be tracked after this program begins? And will we be updated with the pollinator population progress?
So we have something called Utah Pollinator Pursuit, and it is a community science app, again, that you can put on your phone. And so you can take a photo of the pollinators that you see. Right now, we're concentrating on bumblebees and monarch butterflies, but I'm hoping that we will increase the breadth of that program. But you can take the photo of interesting pollinators or any pollinators in your yard, and that will upload to Survey 123. Tracking pollinators is so tricky because there's so many and so many different species, and so much unknown about really what visits what, and it's a tough thing. And so what we might set up for this particular program is, and if people are interested enough, is, and I'm spitballing here, so spend 30 minutes in your pollinator area before you put the plants in, and then a year later spend 30 minutes in that same spot and sort of count and or take photos of the sorry, I just saw somebody in the waiting room, and just take a photo of after, and just see how that changes, and see, get an idea as to the different species that you see from the beginning, the middle, as your project progresses. So it's a really tough thing to do. So the citizen science program that we have for the bumblebees and the monarch butterflies, I mean, monarch butterflies are pretty unmistakable, and you can tell from a photo that it's a monarch butterfly. Bumblebees, even though they're large, very large bees, and just very cute bees, are somewhat easily recognizable, but then it gets down to species to try to recognize species, and that's where it gets a little more difficult. iNaturalist is another way to try to keep track of what you're seeing, and you can submit your photos and your observations up to iNaturalist as well.
And it's kind of nice to note that on those programs, there are specialists who can look at the picture and help you identify it and say whether or not what species they think it is.
Yeah, iNaturalist is very good with that. I haven't done too many insect ones, but certainly for plants, there's a lot of experts out there. Anything else? Have people gotten their questions answered? And if you haven't, again, please do contact me. And we should probably put a few more contact emails on that website too, as this program gets larger. Hopefully gets larger, that we'll need more people to answer questions. So if you guys know of anybody who hasn't answered that survey or haven't put in that survey, please let them know to do so. And if you haven't done so, please make sure that you do that so we know where to have your plans for you, where you want to pick them up, as well as your cost share information. Anything else? Okay, going once. Again, thank you guys for your interest. I'm really excited about this, and it's just so much fun to see the faces, at least some of the faces behind some of those applications that came in. So I really appreciate it.
We're trying to find a way to network everybody that is interested in sharing their stories and sharing their pictures. So make sure you get on Instagram and share some of your, projects that you've got going on, and keep us posted, because I think we're going to try to figure out how to network everybody a little bit better so that we have a kind of a good sense of community.
Jen, can you remind them of the hashtag again for Instagram?
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat. It's the same as the Gmail account. So it's right. Thank
Zach
you.
just got it. Okay,
Yep,
great.
thank you. It's UT Pollinator Habitat Program.
Yeah, I think that could be a wonderful, well, I envision a wonderful outlet for, for you guys in terms of, my Palmer's penstemon is doing really well. Does somebody else want some seed for it, or, something like that? Or what was your secret of Palmer penstemon, or things like that? Or my showy goldeneye is going nuts. Does anybody need any? No, seriously, my showy goldeneye is going nuts. Does anybody need any? Yeah, it's a good one once it gets established. All right. Anything else? Again, you guys are the best, and I really look forward to seeing how it all shakes out and how it all develops.
I see the recommendations for a Facebook group, so we'll discuss and see what we can come up with to get everybody multiple recommendations for a Facebook group.
Okay.
We'll see if we can get
Okay.
that going.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and have a good night, and thanks for giving us an hour plus of your time on a Wednesday night. I appreciate it.
Thank you. You are awesome.
Okay. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you.